Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we dig into the stories behind some of the most fascinating figures of our time. You know, the ones who really make you think, are they changing the world or just really good at playing the game?
It's a question that's harder and harder to answer these days.
Yeah, especially with all the noise and carefully crafted images out there. And that brings us to today's subject, Sir Richard Branson.
Oh, Branson. The man with the Midas touch. Or is it just a really good PR team?
That's what we're here to figure out. We've got stacks of articles, biographies, you name it. We even got a glimpse into his leadership style.
Our mission, should we choose to accept it?
Is to unravel the Branson enigma. Is he a true visionary, a shrewd businessman, a master marketer, or dare I say it?
A bit of a con artist.
Maybe. I mean, look at his career. It's a roller coaster of audacious ventures, big wins, and, let's be honest, some pretty spectacular flops.
Yeah, it's almost like a case study in what we're talking about here. Like, how do you separate the genuine from the carefully crafted narrative?
Right, so let's rewind to the beginning. Branson starts with a student magazine, doesn't really take off. Then he pivots to a mail-order record business. And then, boom, Virgin Records in 1972.
Ah, Virgin Records. That's where we see those first sparks of, well, I don't know, genius, savvy marketing. He taps into the energy of the rock and roll scene, creates this cool hangout where people can just chill, listen to Pink Floyd for hours.
He even signs the Sex Pistols when nobody else would touch them. Aligns himself with that whole punk rock, anti-establishment vibe. It's a calculated risk, for sure.
Yeah.
But does it come from a place of genuine passion or just a desire to be different, to stand out?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is he drawn to disruption because he genuinely wants to change things, or is it all about building the Branson brand?
And speaking of calculated moves, we can't ignore the dirty tricks scandal of the 90s. Virgin Atlantic versus British Airways. Talk about a corporate showdown.
Oh yeah, it got ugly. BA was playing dirty, trying to sabotage Virgin at every turn, poaching customers, spreading rumors, even hacking into their computers. Seriously shady stuff.
And Branson, never one to back down. He sues BA and wins big. £3.5 million. But what does he do with the money?
Pockets it. Invests it in another venture.
Nope. He gives it all to his staff. Calls it the BA bonus.
Wow. That's either incredibly generous or a genius PR move, or maybe both.
Right. It definitely paints him as the underdog, the little guy fighting the big bad corporation. But is it genuine concern for his employees, or just another way to cultivate that rebel image? Does he thrive on these public battles?
It's hard to say, but it definitely keeps him in the headlines, and that's never a bad thing when you're building a global brand, is it?
Okay, so let's talk about his leadership style, because it's another area where opinions are all over the map. Branson's a big believer in empowering your team, listening to your employees, leading by example. He promotes this whole relaxed, fun work environment, even offers unlimited vacation time.
Sounds like a dream, right? Sign me up.
But is it all it's cracked up to be? Is it truly about fostering creativity and well-being? Or is it just another part of the Branson brand image, a way to attract talent and keep people talking?
I mean, there are stories that support both sides, like the time he stopped a Virgin Atlantic flight just to see his wife. Romantic. Or a carefully staged publicity stunt.
You tell me. It's like he's constantly blurring the lines between what's real and what's part of the Branson show.
And maybe that's the secret to his success. Keep people guessing. Keep them entertained.
So, is the Virgin way of leadership a recipe for genuine success or a cleverly crafted facade? That's what we'll be digging into as we continue our deep dive into the world of Richard Branson. Back again for more of The Deep Dive.
We're knee-deep in the Richard Branson saga, trying to figure out if he's a genuine innovator or, well...
a master of illusion.
You could say that. I mean, every time we think we've got him pegged, another layer pops up. But to get a better handle on all of this, we've got something special. We managed to get our hands on some excerpts from an interview with someone who actually worked closely with Branson for a while.
Ooh, juicy. A first-hand account. This could be really insightful. Right. So let's see what they have to say. Okay, so this person talks a lot about Branson's knack for spotting talent. Like, he's got this intuition for finding the right people, the ones with, that spark.
Interesting. And then, what? He just lets them loose?
Pretty much. They say he gives people a ton of freedom to run with their ideas, to experiment, to take risks.
That aligns with what we know about his leadership style. But does it work? I mean, does that lack of structure actually lead to, well, results?
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a catch. This person mentions that, yeah, he's all about empowerment and all that, but he also expects a lot. Like, he's not breathing down your neck, but he wants to see results.
So the freedom comes with pressure.
Definitely. They even said that if you don't deliver, you're out.
So much for embracing failure, huh?
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of that failure is a learning opportunity. Stuff is genuine versus, part of the brand. This person even described the whole experience as exhilarating, but also exhausting.
Makes sense. I mean, Branson himself seems like a pretty high-energy guy.
Yeah, always on the move, always on to the next thing. Oh, and get this. They said he's got this uncanny ability to make everyone feel like they're the most important person in the room. Like he's really present, really interested in what they have to say.
So the charisma, it's not just for the cameras.
Apparently not. They described him as genuinely curious about people, their ideas, their passions, which, let's be honest, is a pretty powerful quality in a leader.
But it also makes you wonder, right? Is it really genuine or is it a strategy? Like, is he just that good at connecting with people or is it all part of building the Branson mystique?
The eternal question. Okay, you ready for this? They shared this anecdote that's just, classic Branson. They said one time he shows up late to a meeting, and he's not in a suit or anything. He's in a dripping wetsuit.
Oh, wetsuit. What, had he been scuba diving or something?
Nope, kite surfing. Apparently, he just decided to swing by the office straight from the beach. Can you imagine? A room full of executives in their suits, and in walks Branson, sand between his toes, that big grin on his face.
Oh, I bet that went over well. Talk about sending a message, like, I do what I want when I want. The rules don't apply to me.
Exactly. And according to this person, everyone was just stunned at first. But Branson, he just brushes it off, apologizes for being late, and jumps right into the meeting like nothing happened.
That's either confidence or arrogance, or, maybe a bit of both.
Right. But it definitely adds to that whole rebel billionaire persona. Okay, one last thing that I thought was really interesting. This person said that despite all the wealth, all the fame, all the success, Branson still seems to genuinely love what he does. Like, he's still got that excitement, that drive. They even said he's got this almost childlike sense of adventure.
That's intriguing, because it suggests that maybe, just maybe, at his core, Branson is driven by passion. It's not just about the money, the power, the fame. It's about the thrill of the chase, the challenge of, making things happen.
It's like he's still that kid who started a student magazine and never really lost that spark. And maybe that's why, even with all the controversies, all the questions, people are still drawn to him.
Yeah, he embodies that idea of, living life on your own terms, pursuing your dreams, not being afraid to take risks.
But is it all an act? Is it possible for a billionaire businessman to truly be a symbol of rebellion and freedom? That's what we'll be grappling with as we continue our deep dive into the world of Richard Branson. Welcome back to the deep dive. Yeah, we've been wrestling with the Richard Branson puzzle, trying to figure out what makes him tick. Is he a genuine force for good or just really good at playing the game?
And we've seen plenty of evidence to support both sides, haven't we? But no conversation about Branson would be complete without addressing the elephant in the room, the controversies, the criticisms, the accusations that have followed him throughout his career.
Right, like no matter how successful or charismatic someone might be, there are always going to be those dissenting voices, those who question the narrative, those who see things a little differently.
And Branson's career is definitely not without its share of those. So let's dive into some of the less flattering aspects, the things that make you scratch your head and wonder if this rebel with a cause is all smoke and mirrors.
Okay, so let's hear it. What are the critics saying?
Well, one of the most common criticisms is that he's more style than substance. A master of PR, a self-promotion machine, always eager to grab headlines, but often failing to deliver on his promises.
So they're basically saying he's all talk, no action.
Pretty much. They point to ventures like Virgin Cola or Virgin Brides, which despite all the initial hype fizzled out pretty quickly. They argue that he's more interested in launching flashy new ventures than in ensuring their long-term success.
Almost like he gets bored easily and moves on to the next shiny object.
Exactly, like a kid in a candy store.
Which brings us to another criticism we've come across. His ventures often seem to rely heavily on government subsidies and tax breaks.
Yeah, yes. This is where things get a bit sticky. Because on one hand, you have Branson, the self-proclaimed champion entrepreneurship, the poster boy for free market capitalism. But then on the other hand, he's benefiting from public funds, essentially having taxpayers foot some of the bill for his ambitious endeavors.
It does make you question the whole self-made narrative, doesn't it? Is he really taking risks if he's got a safety net woven from taxpayer dollars?
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the story. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of his environmental record, which is, well, let's just say it's a bit of a
Oh,
paradox.
yeah, this is a big one.
Mhm.
Here's a guy advocating for sustainability initiatives through Virgin Unite, but at the same time, he owns airlines and promotes space tourism, both of which are major contributors to carbon emissions.
It's a classic case of actions speaking louder than words, and it raises some serious questions about authenticity. Is he genuinely committed to environmental causes, or is it just another savvy marketing ploy to appeal to a more eco-conscious consumer?
Right. It's like, how can you be both a champion for sustainability and a contributor to the very problems you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
Is it hypocrisy or just, the complexities of operating within a system that often prioritizes profit over the planet?
It's a tough one, and there's really no easy answer. But it does highlight the importance of looking beyond the surface, of scrutinizing the actions, even of those we admire.
Okay, and there's one more criticism we need to touch on. Some argue that Branson's leadership style, while seemingly empowering and progressive, actually creates a culture of overwork and burnout.
That's interesting because on the surface, his approach with its emphasis on unlimited vacation time and work-life balance seems like the opposite of a pressure cooker environment.
Right, it sounds like a utopia. But critics point out that without clear boundaries and guidelines, this freedom can actually become a burden. Employees may feel pressured to be constantly available, always on, especially given Branson's own reputation for working around the clock.
It's almost like that always-on culture can be just as demanding as a more traditional 9-to-5 job, maybe even more so because the lines between work and life get blurred.
So is the Virgin way of leadership ultimately empowering or exploitive?
Yeah.
Does it create a genuinely positive and sustainable work environment, or is it just a clever way to mask unrealistic expectations?
It's a question that probably doesn't have a simple answer, but it does highlight the importance of recognizing that what works for one person, even someone as charismatic and driven as Richard Branson, may not work for everyone. And it's about holding leaders accountable for creating workplaces that are both productive and humane.
Well said.
Yeah.
So where does all of this leave us? Where do we land on this question of grifter or gifted?
I think it's safe to say that Richard Branson is a complex figure, a man of contradictions, a walking paradox. He's a brilliant marketer, a visionary entrepreneur, a risk taker who's not afraid to fail. But he's also been accused of hypocrisy, of exploiting loopholes, of putting profit before people.
It's like he's a puzzle with pieces that just don't quite fit together. And it's up to each of us to look at all the evidence, to weigh the pros and cons, and to ultimately decide what we believe.
Because the Richard Branson story is ultimately a reflection of ourselves, our values, our beliefs about success, and our tolerance for moral ambiguity. It's a story that forces us to ask some tough questions about ambition, charisma, and the fine line between innovation and exploitation.
And isn't that what the deep dive is all about? Encouraging us to think critically, to challenge our assumptions, and to engage in meaningful conversations about the figures who shape our world.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground today, explored the highs and lows, the triumphs and the controversies, the complexities and contradictions that make up the Richard Branson story.
And hopefully we've given you some food for thought, some new perspectives to consider as you navigate your own journey. Because in the end, that's what we're all about, sparking curiosity, encouraging critical thinking, and inviting you to dive deeper into the stories that matter.
So until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
And don't forget to let us know what you think. Is Richard Branson a grifter or gifted?
Okay.
We want to hear your take.